Welcome to the webinar on Hong Kong Fintech 2025 Opportunities for Asian Fintechs, organized by the Hong Kong Trade Development Council. I'm Gloria, your MC today. With the Fintech 2025 roadmap being announced, which aims to encourage the financial sector to adopt technology, as well as to promote the provision of fair and efficient financial services, the webinar would discuss how it would create opportunities for fintechs in the region. To elaborate more on the Fintech 2025 roadmap, we are very honored to have with us today Mr. Nelson Chow, Chief Fintech Officer of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, to give us a keynote remark. Mr. Chow, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be able to meet all of you virtually today. I'd like to first take this opportunity to thank the Trade Development Council for organizing this event and for inviting me to speak. Today, I will share with you all the HKMA's Fintech 2025 strategy, our roadmap for driving Fintech development in the next few years. Surely no one would question the importance of technology to our lives and economies. It has transformed the way we learn, we work, we spend, and we connect. Technology is also reshaping the financial industry over the past few decades. While technology is moving faster than ever before, opening up infinite opportunities along the way, we need to build a strong foundation to harness that power and capture the opportunities. By rolling out a 5-year plan like Fintech 2025, we can lay a solid foundation today and help the financial sector adopt technology comprehensively by 2025. Our strategy is based on a virtuous cycle philosophy, where demand, data, and ecosystem are the 3 key elements. To drive demand, we will encourage application of technology in the financial sector. To meet this increasing demand, we will need to grow the fintech ecosystem in Hong Kong so sustainable development can be achieved. To create a positive feedback loop between the fintech demand and supply, we will enhance our data infrastructure. We believe that our strategy will unlock a virtuous cycle of financial innovation that will benefit banks and fintech companies in Hong Kong as well as in the region. As an international financial center and a fintech hub within Asia, such development will create unlimited potential for fintech startups within the region. First, let me go deeply on to the 5 key focus areas of our strategy. The first area of focus is called All Banks Go Fintech. We want banks to fully embrace fintech and the opportunities it offers. We encourage banks to fully digitalize their operation from front end to back end. We are rolling out a tech baseline assessment to take stock of banks' current and planned fintech adoption. And at the same time, we will continue to enhance our guidance to banks on the use of new technologies. We believe that when banks recognize the need to expedite fintech development and adoption, more collaboration between banks and fintech companies can be established, bringing new opportunities for fintech in the region. Second, let's talk about central bank digital currency, or CBDC. It's a hot topic within the central banking community. To future-proof ourselves for possible changes in the global payment landscape brought by CBDC, we need to strengthen our research and international collaboration. Take the multiple CBDC bridge, or in short, M-Bridge project as an example. With the support of the BIS Innovation Hub, we continue to work with other central banking institutions, namely the Bank of Thailand, Central Bank of United Arab Emirates, the Digital Currency Institute of the People's Bank of China, to further explore the capabilities of the cross-border corridor network prototype we built couple of years back. We are proud to say that the enhanced prototype could bring lots of benefits to participating jurisdictions. Compared with the existing corresponding banking model, the prototype can substantially speed up cross-border transfers and reduce costs. As cross-border trades become more frequent, importers and exporters' demand for cheaper and faster cross-border fund transfer services will also grow. We'll continue to experiment with the enhanced prototype, make it more future-proof, scalable, and expandable to other jurisdictions. Third, we talk about data and data infrastructure. We all know that data is vital in the digital era, and data fragmentation is an issue hindering us from unlocking the potential it has. Seeing a pressing need to introduce a new data infrastructure, we're currently building an infrastructure called commercial data interchange. So in the future, instead of multiple one-on-one connections between banks and data platforms, we will connect banks to data providers with a single connection to CDI, making data sharing more secure, efficient, and scalable. With CDI, banks can also factor different types of alternative data to develop innovative products and services. So it is safe to say that when enhancing our data infrastructure, we are also encouraging creativity and stimulating financial innovation. We believe that banks and other fintech ecosystem players like yourself can all gain from CDI development to grow the pie and maximize the synergy. In addition to banks, we also encourage tech companies like yourself to join CDI. Next, we'll talk about people. As an international financial center, Hong Kong has successfully attracted abundant top talents to flex the muscles here. More than 3/4 of the world's top 100 banks have presence in our city, and 15 of the world's 20 largest private equity funds have established their presence here too. We also have greatest number of CFA within Asia. However, with the demand for fintech solution growing at a blistering pace, all global fintech hubs are facing a shortage of the right fintech talent. Inevitably, Hong Kong is also posed with these challenges. We believe that by connecting existing practitioners to the future of banking and by connecting students to fintech industry, we can overcome that barrier. Of course, we understand that more has to be done to expand the fintech talent pool. So we have joined hands with the industry and local university to pilot various schemes to enhance the fintech talent pool. And also we work with the fintech associations in Hong Kong, and we also hope to work with the other panelists from other jurisdictions to leverage the fintech talents within the region. The last one is regarding funding and policies. We understand that trial and error is necessary for innovation. It is our responsibility to provide a conducive environment for banks and fintechs to turn their ideas into success stories. As announced in the recent policy address, the government is exploring with the mainland the formation of a one-stop fintech supervisory network. This could facilitate financial institutions and fintech within the region to test their cross-border fintech applications. Locally, we are also exploring the possibility of providing funding support to qualified fintech projects with the Innovation and Technology Commission. I hope we will be able to announce more details soon during the Fintech Week. I hope that when you think about Fintech 2025 strategy, you will see the unlimited opportunities it could bring on various fronts, be it digitalization of banks, central bank digital currency, data infrastructure, talent development, or funding. chance favors only the prepared mind. By unveiling a new FinTech 5-year plan, we are building a strong foundation for future developments and future-proofing Hong Kong as a global FinTech hub. With the unwavering support from the banking industry, plus the full backing of members of the Hong Kong Inc., such as the Trade Development Council, Fintech Association, we can bring our vision to life and witness the comprehensive adoption of technology by the financial sector by 2025. We also hope to work with the Fintech associations and the Fintech startups within the region, like yourself, to achieve that vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Through this occasion, we also wish to facilitate networking amongst FinTech communities across Asia. Joining us today include Mr. Shonadat Kemaratanat, President of the Thai Fintech Association, Mr. Takashi Kito, Vice Chairman of the Fintech Association of Japan, Ms. Kailin Sun, Vice President of the Singapore Fintech Association, and Mr. Mark Fanon, Vice Chairman of the Fintech Philippines Association. Last but not least, Ms. Helen Lee, General Manager of the Fintech Association of Hong Kong, will moderate the section. Thank you all for joining the panel today, and over to you, Helen.
Thank you very much. It's really my pleasure to be here together with Nelson, whom we work very closely with, and also with all our counterparts from the region. I think as Nelson was just saying, all banks go FinTech. That's a very important agenda as we drive towards FinTech 2025 in Hong Kong. But FinTech is really a collaborative and collective game. So we love to hear the different perspectives from everyone here. And I got one burning question that I really would love to have the insights from everyone. Now, COVID has been a huge accelerator in terms of all things digital. So how have you seen the FinTech ecosystem in your respective countries and jurisdictions being developed and panned out, amidst this new normal of the driven by the pandemic and this accelerated pace? Maybe we turn to from east to west. So we turn to Takeshi-san first, and we'll mix up the order afterwards. Takeshi-san.
Yep. So regarding B2C fintechs, taking capital markets related ecosystem as an example, the number of user accounts and transactions have been increasing naturally during the pandemic. And as retail investors have more time to explore investment opportunities from home online. And as for B2B business perspective, they have been moving to online-based customer acquisition by utilizing webinar and using digital signature instead of seals or chops. So to accelerate this kind of collaboration or business transactions, our associations has been hosting a lot of webinars and supporting B2B fintech startups matchmaking to support their innovation and the business development.
Great, thank you so much, Takashi-san. I think that whole B2B space is very exciting for us in Hong Kong as well. So moving slightly west from Japan, I think both Philippines and Singapore are about in the same, axis. Maybe ladies first. Mark, if you're all right with that, we go to Kailin first, and then you. Hi, Kailin.
Hi. I think in Singapore, what we do see is that over the last 3 to 6 years, there is already a general trend of increased adoption of digital fintech solutions. But what happened in the last 18 months or so is actually an increased speed of such adoption. I think just case in point, because of the safe distancing measure and people not traveling, and even you are going for restaurants, now cashless are actually preferred compared to like a year ago. So I'm not sure whether you guys have been to Singapore. Hawker culture is quite strong in that sense. In the past, I guess hawker center, the default payment methods are actually cash, right? Just citing an example. But with the pandemic, we do see an increased adoption. Even micro businesses are actually adopting digital wallets, e-payments as a way of settling. And this is of course, applied also across to other vertical within the fintech, whether we're talking about digital securities and so on and so forth. So that's definitely a very big impact that we do see in Singapore the last 18 months locally.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kylene. Mark, what are you seeing from the Philippines?
You know, over the last 10 years, most of the money moving around in Philippines domestically, it's been done through the physical remittance centers. So because of lockdowns and many lockdowns over there, then people, they're increasing. Obviously, the two big companies, GCash, PayMaya, they've seen huge increases as people want to be able to transfer money to each other. On the business side, you've got InstaPay and PesoNet, which were introduced about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and mandated by the central bank for all financial institutions to use, and that's seen a huge increase in usage. Still, you know, before that, checks were used for businesses. A lot of check usage, but a lot of that's migrated to InstaPay and PesoNet. So the fact that a lot more people are going on to the two big telco suppliers of e-wallet solutions, I think more to that area rather than the banks. The banks are still, obviously they're seeing increase in customers, but the e-wallets are seeing the most because it's quite easy to onboard. So as a result of that, then all the other players are seeing increases as well. Basically, a rising tide floats all boats. But in terms of payments, I think it's still largely cash-based, and it's going to take some time. Most people that move money around, they usually want to take the money out as cash. So we still need to change to we want to pay using our online methods rather than take cash out and pay it that way.
Yeah, fully agree with that. I think cashless is really, you know, a direction heading, and that actually would team me up nicely for the second question. But before that, I'd love to get the perspectives from Thailand, Kun Chonadat.
Yeah, thanks. It's my pleasure to be here. I think COVID has enabled Thailand to kind of jumpstart the fintech industry, especially in the wealth tech and digital asset. Because for wealth tech, I think people is becoming more aware that they need to invest in order to save for the emergency. And I think our employee, they would get more fun to invest because the salary is there. They don't have to get less, but they need to work from home. So it's like you have the certain amount of income, but much less amount of expenditure, which allow they to save more and invest more. And that's why the number of stock investors increased from 1.2 million at the beginning of 2020 to 2 million nowadays. So it's more than, I think it's almost double, okay? So that's the first and foremost. Talking about digital asset investors, the number of investors jumped to over 1 million of Thai right now. So we could say that right now, the number of digital asset investors have been increasing to challenge the number of traditional stock investors. So that's what's been happening for the past 2 years. And most of them, or I could say almost everyone, have been enjoying online trading, mobile trading, including the new innovations from the fintech startups and incumbents, such as the algo trading in stocks and robo-advisor in mutual funds. And for this particular robo-advisor, we have seen both startups and incumbents are coming into this space. And I foresee that the trend and the growth rate would be in this fashion for a medium term, like 3 to 5 years.
Wow, that is super key, super exciting. Actually, that brings me to the second question. With this growing landscape of fintech, there are so many verticals, you know, like payments, digital banking, AI, blockchain, you know, Nelson mentioned CBDC, the central bank digital currencies, but also the other adoptions of the blockchain technology. There's also green finance, you know, the whole area around data and green tech. What do you see are the most important and fastest growing verticals in your respective regions? I think, you know, we've gathered really 4 of the larger, you know, jurisdictions across APAC here. We'd really love to hear your perspectives about, you know, what are the, you know, fastest growing of these, you know, fintech verticals, given how diverse the whole fintech landscape is. Maybe this time we start with Mark.
Because of the pandemic resulting in a lot of loss of income, basically, there's a lot of requirements for lending, like the unsecured lending market, small amounts, etc. And the problem with that comes, a lot of companies are fly-by-night operations, lending money via apps and stuff. So it's both a growth area and a challenge as well. The other big problem in the Philippines, which needs solutions, is eKYC. Because, you know, one of the key factors of making a business work over there is onboarding cheaply, and you know, low cost, low friction as well. So that's a growth market. The national ID hasn't rolled out yet, so it'll take 2 or 3 years to roll out. Other countries have the advantage of having a, you know, like here where I am at the moment, Dubai, they have an Emirates ID, so you can just open a bank account without need to go anywhere. You just use your government ID. Same with when I was in Kenya, they have a Kenyan ID. You do exactly the same there. So the Philippines is a bit behind in that way, but I think when that rolls out, then people will be able to onboard themselves very much quicker. So I think that's a growth market, KYC, lending, and obviously the payments market, because as I said before, a lot of payments are still cash. So it's a huge growth market for easy payment methods, especially when they don't involve high cost technology. So, like the payment terminals, vendors can't really afford that. So you want to probably go the same route as China with the QR code payments. So those are the 3 areas really.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think from a Hong Kong perspective, payments, digital banks, and we got 8 of them on top of all the banks in Hong Kong. I would concur, and RegTech as well are really the burning areas that we are observing. A lot of movements, a lot of investments being made, and the companies in the payments, digital banking, as well as RegTech areas are growing very fast. And I don't mean just eKYC, but the whole, you know, regulatory technology kind of landscape. Maybe we turn to Kai-Lin. What's happening in Singapore of the fastest growing ones?
I would say that given there are some news that came out last few days, I would say buy now, pay later as one of the key, I guess, big thing that come out the last few days. So StanChart actually invested 500 million in a Singapore headquartered company that focused on buy now, pay later, Advance.ai, where they enter into a 10-year partnership with their key subsidiary in buy now, pay later, Atom. And we do see even within the association, members actually come together to actually request more support from our end, given that, I guess, regulatory-wise, buy now, pay later is an unregulated by MAS type product in Singapore. So that's something that we are actually, I personally find interesting. Second, that recently, I suppose, got a lot of attention from the community. The second one would be, I would think that digital securities or digital asset will be another big industry that we are looking at. Just a broad overview. So like Singapore actually introduced the Payment Services Act, changed the Payment Services Act late last year to actually encompass basically cryptocurrency, anything on a blockchain perspective. And that has resulted in a huge increase in license applicant within this category. From what we are hearing, there are about 100 plus, close to 200 applicants in the pipeline. So it's another thing that we are also helping our members within Singapore to see how do we bring more clarity to the process and so on and so forth, because these regulations are very new in this aspect.
Yes, indeed, Kailin. I think buy now, pay later, the whole, BNPL space, as well as, what you mentioned, about the digital assets and so on are hot areas. And yeah, we're seeing that across the region, really. Maybe I turn now to Chonladet-san, Kun Chonladet.
Yeah.
How is
Okay.
it panning out in Thailand?
I think the trend that we have been experiencing in Thailand is that we have seen so many collaborations among top companies, among top incumbents. And for example, Line, okay, in Thailand, Line is the most famous chat application. They have set up the joint venture with the Kasikorn Bank, one of the largest bank and most innovative bank in Thailand, to offer the wallet, digital saving, digital lending right into that Line super app. Okay, and this trend would continue. So I foresee many super apps are queuing, and I think they are developing the fintech innovations because they have such a large customer base. You may name it like Grab or Shopee or any e-commerce or retail department store chain. I think the way to monetize is to offer a digital wallet and then digital lending and then insurance or investment or buy now pay later. I think that's going to be the trend. And we have seen the new players coming into the wealth tech or investment services, such as Ascent Wealth under the True Corporation, under the Charan Pokapan Group. They have launched the investment service right into the digital wallet application. And I think that would continue. So we would love to see many of big guys collaborating together to offer the fintech services.
Great, that's fantastic. Takeshi-san, how are things panning out in Japan, the different fintech verticals?
We have, I think, three fast-growing verticals in Japan. First one is payment. I think it's similar to other countries. And in Japan, cashless ratio is still low, and the government trying to increase this ratio up to 40%. So payment industry is encouraged to adapt innovation by the government. And second vertical is the cryptos, which includes security tokens and other related crypto assets as well. And we have so many crypto exchanges in Japan, and they still have huge volumes of transactions. And the last one is wealth management. And we have some fintech companies that was listed to the stock exchange in Tokyo. And I think the most important thing is having interoperability between these verticals. And actually, we have not horizontal infrastructure that can connect these verticals yet in Japan. So as Singapore has API exchanges and Hong Kong has the same, I think, but we don't have the similar one in Japan. We do not have it yet. So we are trying to develop this kind of API exchanges or data sharing infrastructure in Japan. That's the situation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Takeshi-san and everyone, for the valuable input. There are actually quite a few interesting questions from the audience, which we will get to very shortly. I do have one question that is like an offshoot of this first, the previous one about what are the fastest growing area. So in terms of the investments into fintech and the fintech that you see are being successful in your respective jurisdictions, how are the investment, funding coming along in your respective jurisdictions? And what are some of the success factors for the fintechs that you see as being, most vibrant where you are? This time, maybe we start from the West first. So let's start with Kun Chonladet.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the fast-growing fintech segment in Thailand, it's about digital asset. and it has gained a lot of traction, a lot of investment. And I think the key success factor is that our regulator is so supportive in order to regulate the digital asset, and it would allow the digital asset exchange to legally and officially solicit our Thai investors. So our Thai investors don't have to go abroad in order to invest in digital asset. So that's the first and foremost. And I think the trend and the price and the volatility of this Bitcoin or digital asset attracts traders in Thailand. I think in Thailand or Hong Kong or any other Asian countries, we love trading. So that's why if you ask me, the fastest growing and the place that attract more VC funds would involve in this digital asset.
Right. Thank you so much. Are we seeing similar perspectives from Philippines? Mark?
It's 3 o'clock.
Well, I'm going to cover two areas, one either end of the spectrum. In terms of, because foreigners weren't really allowed to go into the Philippines until July. Well, actually, no, anyone who's not resident there is still not allowed to go back. So, but that's not stopping investment coming in remotely. In terms of new technologies or new regulation that have been taken up, the digital banks, the digital bank formation, I think the central bank allowed 5 banks to be created, and I think they've been filled. One you might have heard of is Tonic Bank, that's a pure digital bank, and then Union Bank is starting their own digital bank as well. So there's probably a lot of other players that want to get into that market. We'll have to see if the central bank will increase the numbers allowed. So that's the on the banking side, digital banking side. Another area that's we've seen a big growth area and investment is Axie Infinity. You probably heard of that space. A lot of Filipinos need to make money, and there's like setups like YGG, which allow people to borrow the assets in the NFT game to earn money. So people are actually earning money playing games with crypto assets, and that's a fairly big growth market that's unregulated. Don't think it needs to be regulated, but we'll see. So there's investment going in for that as well. Yeah, we'll see how it goes over the next year or two in terms of opening up and allowing people to come in. I think it's still a lot of people prefer face-to-face meetings when doing investment and exploring, etc.
True, that's so true. Thank you, Mark. Are we seeing similar things, Kylin, in Singapore?
Yeah, I would say that investment outlook also changes with investor sentiment. So every part of the year, the flavor of the time is different. I do think that second quarter this year, we see a lot of Investech activity coming on in the Series B space. So in Singapore, we have SYFE, who got backing, and then Endowers in Singapore, 20-30 mil kind of Series B treasure, and it's all back to back. So somehow I think when they Investech that quarter, a lot of Investech investment got funded. And I do think that buy now, pay later is probably this kind of this quarter we do see that. And I would think that if you look at trends, last year I think in Singapore, mainly on the digital banking side, neobank strategy, and so on and so forth. So I would say that it also depends on a lot of this investment outlook in terms of sentimental analysis of investors, where it comes in cycles, I would say. But having said that, it's not like this. It's not like these companies don't work rest of the year or rest of the other years in terms of growth. But generally, I would say that the last 2 years, generally Fintech is in a relatively good space from a general investment outlook perspective, just because of the general trend precipitated by the pandemic, right? So I think that's a good space to be in from an overall investment outlook.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kylin. Definitely the robo-advisory and wealth tech space is very hot in Singapore, and they are all coming to Hong Kong to establish a presence as well, the companies that you mentioned before. Takeshi-san, what is the landscape looking like in Japan? Can you tell us?
Yeah, okay. Generally speaking, in Japan, embedded finance or fintech SaaS is booming in terms of investment because many non-financial companies such as e-commerce, real estate, and telecoms are interested in integrating fintech solutions to their own products or services. So that's why investors looking to huge opportunities in the collaboration between fintechs and non-fintech companies. So that's the situation in Japan.
Thank you so much. I think it's really such a rich and diverse perspective. Now, I now have quite a few burning questions from the audience. Let me start with a couple that is closer to home, Hong Kong first. So I've got Nelson here with us, so it's actually very timely. The first question, Nelson, actually is about, Hong Kong's fintech development is gaining global recognition. So how is that competitive position vis-a-vis other markets? And how does the roadmap of Fintech 2025 that you laid out before present opportunities, not just for Hong Kong, but for the Greater Bay Area as a whole, of which Hong Kong is very much an integral part? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, thank you. I think in terms of fintech development, you see around the region, although some people will always compare us with Singapore, but I guess in fintech, there's no need to to compare it that way. I would if you look at some of the unicorns around the region, they can't be a unicorn by providing services to one jurisdiction only. They become a unicorn because they have this cross-border capability. So I think from what I just briefly mentioned, the 5 focus areas, I already talked quite a substantial part about demand and supply. We believe that in the coming years, since we have laid out this strategy, so the market will be pretty clear that we will require banks to adopt more technologies, be it on the fintech, regtech. So there is huge demand and huge opportunities for fintech within the region, not just the local fintech companies. So I guess from opportunity perspective, we are open, as we always do, open to foreign companies to provide their services here, to the incumbents, to the virtual banks, to the e-wallets service providers. So I think with this, when the demand and supply become a feedback to each other, we believe that there will be a huge opportunities for the fintech companies within the region. And you mentioned about GBA. Definitely, it's a fastest growing area. We're talking about 70 to close to 70 something, close to 80 million of population, and fast growing middle income families. So their demand of various sort of, not just payment is already there within the region. Very popular e-payment. It's everyone you see payment here in this in the GBA. I think the next will be the need for wealth tech and different solutions to address that need. Some of the speakers have mentioned about that. It's interesting that I know, from our Thai colleague here, I now know why people go to stock market, because they have nowhere to spend their salary. That's an interesting one. I've never thought of that. Yes.
That's a very interesting one. Thank you so much, Nelson. That is really great. And to your point about cross-border scalability, that actually is a second question, because 100% agree. You need to have cross-border before you can scale. So, how easy, what are the relative differences in regulations in terms of setting up fintechs and for fintechs to expand? So this is a question. Expansion to other jurisdictions, how easy, set of different regulations, what are the points on cross-border scalability? Maybe we start with Kailin.
Yeah. On this topic from a cross-border scalability across Asia, I think generally, even for my own capacity, because I run a fintech myself, I do think that to the audience of participants who are running their own company or who have expanded overseas would have concurred with my kind of conclusion, in the sense that ultimately, I think Asia, we are a very fragmented market. And I think people have to be aware of that. If you're coming from the US or from Europe, while there are probably more similarity here there, but in Asia, the fragmented market also means that scalability across the different markets is a very different ballgame. And while there are synergies that we can leverage on across different jurisdictions, the differences, the cultural differences, the regulation differences is something that I think everybody needs to be going in with open eyes when they expand. And this is again sharing from my personal experience, given that my company Funnel, we expanded from Singapore to Malaysia to Indonesia, right? So, and the challenges we face in different markets are very different. and it's interesting to note, right? And it's something that I'm also learning as we expand.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mark, Chonladat, Takeshi, things to add to that in terms of expanding to your jurisdictions?
Well, there's no exchange controls bringing money into the Philippines, and most money flows into the Philippines in terms of remittances, etc. So it's not a problem. Most of the money is US dollars or euros flowing in. The banks can take it in. You're applying more due diligence if there's increased amounts. But we're seeing the use of new technology, for example, Stellar blockchains or other blockchains for transferring money faster and cheaper. With companies like Circle in the US, where it's legalized, it's covered. It's acceptable to the banks in the Philippines. You can move money across blockchain a lot faster and a hell of a lot cheaper. So those are, using new technology to move money as it has been done for a long time, just making it faster and cheaper.
Yep, thank you. Takeshi-san, tips for Japan?
I'm totally agree with cross-border collaboration and expansion is quite important for fintech industry. But however, there are two problems which prevents cross-border collaborations. First one is the regulations, and the second one is data localization. And I believe to solve these problems, collaboration between regulatory sandboxes and digital sandboxes is quite important. So yeah, we hope we can do this together with fintech associations and regulators in the region.
Thank you.
I wanted to add, we have industry sandbox as well. It's been ongoing for the last year or so. And that's an industry sandbox allowing the regulators, it's probably 7 different regulators that they don't oversee it, but they see what policies might need changing as new industry cooperate, like people that may be competing, but they want to work together, new innovations that come out. So the industry sandbox, like Takeshi saying, is quite important.
Absolutely, and we do have those in Hong Kong as well. Khun Chonladat?
Yeah, I think finding local partners is considered as a key success factor if you would like to go abroad, especially in Thailand. And I think it's the same situation for other parts in Asia, because we need to localize the service some way, somehow. And then we need to, it is better to have the market there if you can shake hands with the local players who have a good diverse customer base. That's the plus. And then last but not least, finding tech talent. And fintech talent here in Thailand is not easy because everyone is trying to recruit the good tech people. Developers in Thailand is so limited in terms of supply. So I think finding local partner is the key here.
Yes, couldn't agree more. I think it's important to have that local knowledge before you can actually, succeed. This next question, I think, is probably more for me. It says, what are the first steps for ASEAN fintech companies if they wish to gain access to the Hong Kong fintech landscape? Well, I would say there are quite a few ports of call that you must make to branch into Hong Kong. The Invest Hong Kong is actually has a specific mandate to help fintech companies to grow and to establish their foothold in Hong Kong. Trade Development Council has tons of resources in terms of network, in terms of their global reach, in terms of setting up in Hong Kong. And not forgetting, we've got very supportive regulators here as well that actually have a lot of initiatives that are geared towards supporting the healthy growth of the fintech ecosystem. So those parties, plus of course the Fintech Association of Hong Kong, if you become a member, you will actually gain access to a lot of the key players here as well as overseas that might want to have an interest developing in Hong Kong. So the next question actually is a very interesting one and is for everyone, really. Sustainability has been a big buzzword and gaining in popularity. How do you foresee fintech or green tech in particular could interplay or transform the sustainable finance markets? This is a topic I'm heavily invested in my other platform that does a lot of advocacy around that and learning programs as well. But I'd love to hear from the other panelists as well on that. Green tech, how is that panning out? Should I call
Can you define green tech a bit more in terms of like, it sounds like environmental, something to do with the environment more than just fintech, or?
Let me phrase it then. This is exactly the wording of the question. I think green tech refers to applying deep tech or tech solutions to driving the agenda of ESG or sustainability or green finance. So one area that I'm seeing personally is data, okay? Because data has long been a problem in terms for investors in the ESG space. So I know there are various, data analytics, AI providers that are looking into more reliable alternative data that supplements the public data that you can find, of course, through platforms like Bloomberg, Refinitiv, and so on. So that's one aspect, data. But of course, there are many other aspects that might help to fast track the environmental, social, governance aspects of that. And a lot of that are also tied to RegTech as well, the governance aspect. So just interested in perspectives anyone has to share on that. This is obviously a huge, think
Maybe I can jump in?
Yes, please, Nelson.
Yeah, very quickly. Two things. First is, I think Mark asked a very good question. What is the definition of green tech and what we're talking about? First of all, I guess it's a hot topic. We all need to know that, we all know that we need to go green, but for some of the green projects, whether those are really green or really greenwashed, I think data and technology can help. For example, IoT devices collecting carbon footprint of a particular project. So those, I think, a lot of people are looking into to ensure a green project is really green. The second aspect, I think it's, we talk about a lot about green, but a lot of the retailers are not able to invest into green, right? Those are mainly, all the green bonds are currently only professional investors or institutional investors can invest in. I think, well, some of the digital asset guys would be able to help how to tokenize some of those green projects and make it available to a wider population. Two aspects, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Nelson. I think those are very valid.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll just add on for a little bit. So I think from our perspective in Singapore, generally for green or ESG finance, fintech, what we do see from an issue perspective is accountability and measurability. How do you measure how green a company is? Then second is how you improve how you improve the general greenness and sustainability measure indexes that we are looking at. On number one, I think that's on the data point which Nelson mentioned, would be that the framework that we have right now, by and large, are quite fragmented. There's no singular framework that we do see within the ESG and sustainability framework perspective. And this ties in very nicely in terms of some of the work where Singapore Fintech Association is working on. We do have a green finance and sustainability subcommittee within SFA that's in the process of looking at these various frameworks and hoping to standardize it for the Singapore Fintech in the longer term, right? And that's something that we are looking at quite closely and hoping that we can come up with something. Of course, people ask, oh, why do you need how green SL? Why do we need the greenness, right? Obviously, two things is all about maybe customer and stakeholder management, and second is investors. We do see an increased impact investors coming into the region. And one of the questions they ask is, how do you measure this, this sustainability aspect and how green you are from that perspective. And it's quite interesting, even my own company looking at some of these ESG investors, how they look at things and how they measure. And so far it's quite disparate across the various investors I've spoken with. And it's something that I think we regionally, there's a lot more that we can work on together. Together and collaborate on, given it's a very big topic internationally.
Yeah, I was going to mention that if you're talking about real green, as in trees, Gcash has a program where you collect green points as you use the wallet, and then those points are used to adopt a tree, to plant a new tree. So that's actually to the environment side. But for a lot more initiatives, we need more API creation and usage in the Philippines. We don't have enough of that. The banks are not too open. There's only a couple of banks that really push APIs out. So the industry sandbox is an initiative to help push that forward. With more APIs, more data moving around, then we can create new initiatives. Right now, we're still in infancy.
Thank you, Mark. The green point is actually very interesting. Any other perspectives from Thailand and from Japan?
Yeah, in Thailand, we could say that in terms of sustainability or ESG, our Stock Exchange of Thailand has done pretty well in terms of having I think roughly 10 of listed firms to be in the Dow Jones Industry Sustainability Index. And we have a lot of industry leaders in that area. And I think we have about 11 of companies to be ranked as a gold class by S&P. Yeah, I could say that for incumbents and listed firms, we have done pretty well in terms of ESG. And we love to promote the ESG concept for investment, for example, to select stocks or to offer the thematic investment from that ESG or sustainability. Yeah, so that's from Thailand.
Thank you very much. And from Japan, Takeshi-san.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's a hot topic. Sustainable finance and green finance is a hot topic in Japan as well. But to be honest, it's just a concept. And we do not have concrete guidelines or frameworks for sustainable finance for fintech industry. So we are talking with Chief Fintech Officer of FSA, our regulators, and what can we do together for sustainable finance and green finance related topics.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's no doubt is a very important agenda, and no doubt collective actions are needed. We've seen a lot of framework from Europe around climate risk disclosures. The regulators really are looking at it very closely to avoid greenwashing, but also to encourage more investors to participate in this as they wish. So we could go on talking like this forever, but unfortunately, I think that's about the time we have for today. So I want to thank the Trade Development Council again for inviting all of us to be here. It's great to share the virtual stage with Nelson and with all the participants from around the region. I just wish that we would be able to do this face-to-face sooner rather than later, And thank you everyone for all chiming in with all the questions.
Thank you, Nelson, Helen, and all panelists. Before we close, we would also like to take this opportunity to introduce the Asian Financial Forum, the anchor promotion event for the financial sector. May we invite Ms. Melody Kwok, Manager, Service Promotion of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us at this Fintech webinar. I'm Melody from the Hong Kong Trade Development Council. So after hearing from our experts on how to tap into the Asian markets through Hong Kong, I'm here to provide you with an avenue to expedite your growth and to expand your business, which is the Asian Financial Forum, the AFF, of which you might have heard about. So the upcoming edition will be held on the 10th and the 11th of January 2022. This event is co-organized with the Hong Kong SAR government. And under the theme of navigating the next normal towards a sustainable future, we will look into the business landscape under the ever-changing environment, and especially in the post-pandemic era. And we will also look into how the business industry prepare itself towards a sustainable future. The AFF is positioned as the thought leadership platform in Asia, of which we attract global leaders and business financial representatives to exchange insights, intelligence, and of course, most importantly, to do partnership. So here are 3 reasons why you have to join us. First is, of course, to get inspirations. Every year, we curate a program of main forum covering different topical issues, and we invite business leaders and government representatives to share with us their insights and also their thoughts. And innovations is, of course, the key to success in your business. So that's why we also invite technopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and innovators to join us to share their tips for doing businesses. The second reason is, of course, for you to showcase your cutting-edge innovations. So startups are all welcome to join us at the InnoVenture Salon to showcase your solutions. And I will introduce you further the Fintech Hong Kong Startup Salon in the coming couple of slides. And most importantly, to make partnerships. We have a dedicated platform called the Deal Flow Matchmaking Session, of which we match sources of deals and sources of funds, and I will also introduce to you further. Every year, we manage to attract different representatives from the C-suite level participants, including the regulators, thought leaders, and of course, the representatives from the multinational corporations. We do also have a lot of different representatives and service providers in the professional and financial fields. And of course, we have investors around the world and high net worth individuals to select the projects they are interested for investments. And here is a list of the top-notch speakers that we have managed to attract over the years. And as you can see, we have representatives from the central banks, regulators, and also other financial institutions. At this premier platform attracting international attention, we have worked with different partners, including those representatives from the financial institutions, as well as the regulators and also accelerators and also incubators. To spread the word of the AFF and to increase international awareness, we've also partnered with different media outlets, including like Bloomberg or Financial Times, etc. So for fintechs that are interested in the Hong Kong or even the Asian markets, I would recommend you to join the Fintech Hong Kong Startup Salon. Actually, this is an initiative initiated in 2020, supported by the Hong Kong government. So if you are interested, no matter whether you're specialized in AI, big data, or even red tech or wealth tech, you are welcome to submit your application to us, and it will be vetted by a panel committee. If you are chosen to represent your company to join us, not only will you be entitled to a complimentary booth to display your solutions, we will also arrange a different variety of capacity building workshops for you, including mentorship, pitching opportunities, and also sharing sessions. And you will also meet experts in the field to provide you with investment tips and also how to present your ideas better. So don't miss this opportunity because your participation will be important at this very important event, and your fee will be subsidized by the government if you are chosen. Another important avenue would be the AFF Deal Flow, which is a dedicated platform for us to match investors and the project owners and of course the startups. So with our council's over 50 offices around the world, we engage international investors to join us and to review the projects we have on hand, and listing your projects and also your company profiles, your objectives, and your business proposal on our portal could let you get selected and reviewed by investors to evaluate the investment opportunities. We also have different types of exposure for the publicity and other avenues for you to showcase and further promote your brands. So at its very international platform, we attracted over 6,600 viewers from 82 countries and regions for the AFF 2021. And we have very high concentration of C-suite level decision makers. So join us at the AFF to get inspirations, to showcase your intelligence, and to forge partnerships. Join the AFF and be a part of it. Thank you.
For joining us today. This is the wrap of the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at the Asian Financial Forum in January 2022. Please enjoy the following video as we close. Thank you.
Co-organized by the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region Government and Hong Kong Trade Development Council, the 14th Asian Financial Forum, AFF, welcomed more than 66,000 viewers from over 80 countries and regions. The two-day virtual forum ran around the clock across time zones and featured a star-studded lineup of speakers and more than 160 influential policymakers, financial experts, business leaders, technopreneurs and economists. They examined the current economic landscape and explored global business opportunities. Themed as Reshaping World Economic Landscape, a discussion of driving global economic recovery topped the agenda. Nobel laureate, economist and policy entrepreneur Paul Romer offered his insights on the topic.
Asia no longer was in the mode of simply catching up with the West, catching up with the United States. 2020 was the year in which Asia significantly outperformed Europe and the United States. As it moves into this era of being at the lead, innovation, true innovation becomes more important and harder.
Innovation and technology are the engines of financial advancement and were a key focus at this year's AFF. Two technology trailblazers, Alexis Ohanian, founder of 776, and Luke Julia, co-creator of Siri, shared their insights on investment and innovation. The global pandemic was a wake-up call for a more resilient future and put sustainable investment under the event's spotlight. Our heavyweight speakers emphasized the importance of incorporating environmental, social and governance (ESG) considerations in investment decisions and brought scrutiny to the long-term prospect of impact investing.
More investors are also here to diversify their portfolio and to improve the risk management. No doubt, ESG is a real game changer in the financial industry and is here to stay.
Within pandemic, what we've seen is investors have shown increased interest in impact investing. They want to understand what the opportunities are and how they can engage. And I think that's the real opportunity for us in the field as practitioners, for finance professionals, is how do we turn that interest into action?
The AFF connected investors, project owners and startups from around the world through virtual exhibition and the deal flow matchmaking session. Over 600 investment projects were presented and more than 700 one-on-one matchmaking meetings were arranged. These exchanges and discussions shed light on the actions necessary for a better and more prosperous future.
You know, it's very good to have meetings like this where people come together and talk about these issues, about technology, the financial sector, and both the profit opportunities they provide, but also the broader social effects that they'll have. So it was a great meeting, and I think I'd be happy to participate in another one like it.
After 14 years, the AFF has become a mainstream international financial forum, always at the beginning of the year, so we are able to afford our participants an opportunity to feel the pulse of the world.